Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Welcome to Slamtown. My name is Sam, and I'm joined as always by
Tim.
Welcome, buddy. Tonight's show, I think we're going to call it like a celebration. We'll be discussing some of our favorite matches from the career of Bray Wyatt, who unfortunately passed away last week. Personally, one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. If I had a Mount Rushmore, Bray Wyatt is on it, from not even just his wrestling ability, but like as a creative. It's just it's a big loss to the community, and it's something I didn't think I'd ever be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember like watching shows with you, and like watching like pay-per-views. Like whenever there was a match with Bray Wyatt, I always just remember you talking like just so fondly of him. Like you just really enjoyed him, and absolutely like understandable because he was just so creative with especially his Fiend character. I really enjoyed that. So definitely a big loss.
Oh yeah, when the Fiend first came around, I will openly admit this. There were some points where I wasn't as into wrestling as I have always been. When the Fiend came around, that was something that got me back into just all of it. That reawakened the passion, the interest. It made me want to watch again.
Right.
It was just such a creative character, like a cool concept. Granted, the Fiend character and just Bray Wyatt himself wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it was just... It was... I'm struggling for words with this, but it was like... It was magnetic. It drew you in. It was something interesting. It was against the grain. Because like people watch wrestling, they want to see guys fight. They don't always necessarily want to see like a creative character. They just want to see 2 guys hitting some moves, winning titles. The Fiend was a character and a persona that didn't need victories. It didn't need title reigns. It was just something that made you watch.
Right.
Like,
and especially like having, yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good, dude. You're good.
Like I was gonna say, like having something that kind of brings you back into something you've enjoyed, like watching, or like a community that you've been a part of for so long. That thing that brings you back in, you really form like a really kind of close like attachment to it in a way. So like your example of how the Fiend character kind of brought you back in to wrestling, like that's going to stick with you, and it's going to hit home.
Oh yeah, from day one, first time you heard Yowie Wowie and the Firefly Funhouse theme played, I was hooked. Oh my god.
And I remember you were explaining like the whole idea of like a Firefly Funhouse to me for the first time, and I had no idea like what you're talking about. I was like, what is this? Like, this doesn't sound like wrestling, but after seeing it, it's like just so imaginative, so creative. Nothing like it, really.
So before we get into like the main discussion, what the Firefly Funhouse was. So when Bray Wyatt first appeared in WWE, he was the leader of this faction called the Wyatt family. And it was like a cult. He was like he was the leader, and they were like these brainwashed followers. When the group first originally appeared, it was Bray Wyatt, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper. Luke Harper, we also unfortunately lost at a young age. I want to say in 2020 was when he passed. Rest in peace to Brody Lee, formerly known as Luke Harper, number one in the Dark Order. So the original formation of the group was Bray Wyatt, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper. They were a cult leader and his followers situation. Eventually, they added more members, which include Braun Strowman, Daniel Bryan, and Randy Orton were all at one point members of the Wyatt family. When the cult idea kind of ran its course, the group split up. People kind of went on their separate ways. Eric Rowan fell back in with Daniel Bryan, was his bodyguard. Luke Harper left the company, ended up going to AEW. Braun Strowman kind of started doing his own thing. And Bray returned as, the best way I can describe it, this Mr. Rogers-looking dude. He had the red sweater, he had khakis, he had dress shoes. And what the Firefly Funhouse was it was like a children's program. He'd present it. He had puppet friends that came out with him. There was Mercy the Buzzard, Abby the Witch, Huskus the Pig Boy, and Ramblin' Rabbit. And then there was a Fiend puppet, which was Bray Wyatt's alter ego. And Firefly Funhouse was where he would like do all his promos and his on-screen, like if you were there live, you'd see him up on the Jumbotron, and he's in the Funhouse. And he was like a kid show presenter. He'd be like, "Hi kids, welcome to the Firefly Funhouse," and he'd do like the Pee Wee Herman word of the day bit, and he'd be like, "Now come on, follow me," and he'd go talk to Ramblin' Rabbit. Ramblin' Rabbit would always end up like smushed with a hammer or something. And then like during his presentation as a children's show host, like static would go across the screen, and this gravelly voice would say, "Let me in," and that was like signaling that the Fiend was gonna arrive. Bray Wyatt was the man behind the Fiend mask, but storyline was that it was like this dark entity that lived within him that he kind of would let out for him to like do he called it healing. Like the Fiend, he needed the Fiend to help people heal through the hurt. Like he would use pain to help these people. And it was is such a cool character. It was, I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me, but this like famed horror movie mask maker and like makeup designer, he did like the Night of the Living Dead zombie makeup and like Freddy Krueger, all these different monsters. He designed the Fiend mask and the Fiend custom title belt.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I think it was Tom Savino is the guy's name, but I could be very wrong. If the audience wants to Google that and then get in the comments,
do a little Googling. That was a really good description of.
Oh, thank you.
The sit down. Very concise. Very good.
I have a very black and white way of doing my hobbies. I either know everything or nothing at all, and there's zero gray. It is black or it is white. I am either 100 or none of it.
Either all in or no in.
Exactly. So the first thing we wanted to talk about, WWE, when they announced that Bray Wyatt had unfortunately passed away, canceled SmackDown on the Friday. They didn't cancel like the airing of it. They didn't cancel the time slot. They canceled the current storylines and the progression and just presented it as a celebration of Terry Funk, who we mentioned had passed in our last episode, and Wyndham Rotunda, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt. So the show opened with the customary 10-bell salute. Anytime a wrestler passes, that's usually the custom. It has whatever roster is there was on the stage. Everyone's standing there in silence. The ring bell rings 10 times. But what happened during his 10-bell salute, his rocking chair, when he was the Wyatt family leader, like the cult leader, he would sit in this little like old rocking chair, and he'd be rocking back and forth, and he'd have a lantern in his hand. The lights go out. The roster and like backstage, everyone that's there really is out on the stage, and a spotlight shines, and it's Bray's rocking chair. It's just sitting there in the middle of the spotlight with a little bit of fog rolling through it. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. It just, I full disclosure, I cried. Like I said, Bray was one of my favorite talents. And it was a beautiful tribute to one of the most creative forces in professional wrestling. I don't care what you say, Bray Wyatt was one of the most creative minds in the sport forever, ever. And he will go down as that. He is one of the most, if not the most, creative minds in professional wrestling.
Yeah. Very creative.
And then aside from that, there were moments all through the episode, wrestlers paying their tributes. They had a match honoring Terry Funk. It was a Terry Funk hardcore match. The Street Profits defeated the Brawling Brutes during it. During the match, Montez Ford from the Street Profits looked right in the camera and he shouted, "He has the whole world in his hands," which is one of the phrases Bray used when he was a member of the Wyatt family. Rey Mysterio, the current United States champion, took on Grayson Waller. Rey Mysterio used the clothesline running senton combination that Bray Wyatt often used in his matches as a tribute to his friend. It showed Braun Strowman and Eric Rowan with the rocking chair. Eric Rowan isn't contracted to the WWE at the moment, and they let him have this moment with his peers, his friends, everyone he know that kind of was around the same time on the roster with him and Bray. And we were talking before we started recording, the main event of this episode of SmackDown was LA Knight versus Finn Balor. Finn Balor was one of the first people that the Fiend Bray Wyatt, he was the first person Bray Wyatt wrestled as the Fiend in WWE. And that was at SummerSlam 2018 or 19, one of those. All I remember, I was in Florida, so it had to be 2018 or 2019 when I was living in that area. And then he fought LA Knight, Finn Balor, in this match. LA Knight was the last person Bray Wyatt wrestled in the WWE before he took some time off for health reasons. The final match of Bray Wyatt in the WWE was the Mountain Dew Pitch Blackout match at the Royal Rumble. What this match was a lot of people had no clue what it was going to be going into it. Basically, they turned all the lights in the stadium into black light, and LA Knight and Bray were wearing ring gear that was blacklight reactive. So there was like hidden symbols and body paint and all this stuff that appeared when they used the blacklight. And the like weapons they used, like the kendo sticks, were glowing neon because they used blacklight paint on them. And one of them got slammed through the announce table, and just like these brightly colored yellow ping pong balls burst out of it. It wasn't like anything insane. Well, the ending was kind of insane, but I'll get to that in a second. But it was just a lot of cool visuals. Like everything popped.
Very visually appealing.
It looked like a bowling alley when the ping pong balls came out.
Bowling alleys are notorious for blacklight.
Yeah. There's one place, if you're a blacklight junkie, just hit up your local bowling alley. And the ending of this match was one of the first times we had seen the Uncle Howdy character physically on the screen. A lot of people weren't sure who was under the Uncle Howdy mask. At one point, it was rumored to be former WWE superstar Bo Dallas, who's the real-life brother of Bray Wyatt. And then other people were speculating that it was this independent wrestler who did a lot of his wrestling in Ring of Honor and some in Impact, named Vinny Masigliari, the Horror King. If you look up a picture of Vinny, He's got longer gray hair. It's in dreadlocks, and he's covered in tattoos. The longer gray hair, like braided, was kind of the look Uncle Howdy had. So a lot of people weren't sure if it was Bray Wyatt or Bo Dallas, Bray's brother, or Vinny or Vincent, as his ring name is, was the one under the mask. But Uncle Howdy was part of Bray's return when he came back after getting released from his original contract. Because when he returned to WWE at Extreme Rules, which is one of the pay-per-views that was first under the Triple H regime, Bray just simply, like, the show was about to end, and there was a door on stage, just a regular, like, door you'd walk through to enter a room in your house. The door opened. There's nothing on the other side. You heard the opening chords of Bray Wyatt's theme song, and the fans do this thing when Bray would come out called the Fireflies. That's where he got the name for the Firefly Funhouse. It's just you turn on your cell phone camera or hold up a light in the audience and you sway it back and forth to the rhythm of his entrance music, and that started to be known as, yeah, exactly. It was called the Fireflies. People started doing the Fireflies, and then Bray Wyatt appears seemingly out of nowhere and walks through the door holding his signature lantern. And speaking of his signature lantern, that's how they ended the Bray Wyatt tribute on SmackDown. After LA Knight pinned Finn Balor in the main event, in the ring, Bray's lantern was sitting there, like his original Wyatt family lantern, not his version of the lantern when he was the Fiend, which we will get to. It was just his regular lantern from when he was the original Bray Wyatt, and the lantern is sitting there glowing in the ring. Fog rolls in. It pans up to the Titantron, and there's just a still image of Bray standing there. Like it was like a hologram kind of thing of Bray standing like he's walking into the back. Like he's going, like he's ascending.
Right.
And the final moment of the show was the light on the lantern going out.
Very fitting.
When I tell you I bawled. I
don't blame you, man. and one thing I will say is, he passed, or news of his passing came out on Thursday, I believe. And obviously,
Yes.
SmackDown airs on Friday. So the fact that they were able to put together such like a complete, tribute, like memoriam for him within like 24 hours, pulling clips from just his entire career, putting together like this full show celebration with such a short like notice. It's very commendable, very impressive.
One more thing I will say about his tribute. I don't know if this is true. As a fan, I want to believe this is true. And I personally, I do believe this is true. Roman Reigns, his current title reign, The Fiend is who he beat to win the Universal title. The one that he's actively holding.
Oh,
he defeated Bray Wyatt during the Thunderdome era, which was when they had the video screens be the audience during COVID protocols.
Mm-hmm.
So Roman, I believe Bray Wyatt was defending the title against Braun Strowman, a former member of his Wyatt family stable. Roman Reigns returned and made the match a triple threat. He won the match, and he's held on to the title ever since. The title belt The Fiend carried, when he was Bray Wyatt, it was the big blue leather Universal title. And when he was The Fiend, it was a title belt, but instead of the WWE symbol, it was The Fiend's face.
Yeah.
With big straps alongside.
Pictures of it. It's very cool looking.
Oh my God. It was one of the coolest custom title belts I've ever seen. John Cena's spinner belt, dog water. Triple H's Brahma Bull title, doo-doo. The Fiend Universal title, chef's kiss.
Magnificent.
Beautiful. Oh, so good. So Roman Reigns took the blue Universal title belt because he still had it. He was the last person to actively hold it. He was actively using it on TV until they introduced the gold belt he carries now.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the home of Bray Wyatt's widow and his children and presented them with the title. Because Bray Wyatt was the person who debuted the blue title belt in WWE.
Oh, gotcha.
One of the matches we're going to cover later, Bray Wyatt won the Universal title, and it was the red belt, which is the version a Raw superstar would carry. Bray Wyatt got drafted to SmackDown as the active Universal Champion, and in an episode of the Firefly Funhouse, he came in dressed as a wizard. Not a wizard, like a party magician with the black top hat and the little white gloves. And he used his magic wand to change the Universal title into the blue one for the SmackDown brand.
Because you can't have red on SmackDown. That just doesn't work.
That's not the colors.
That's not the color.
That's not the color, guys. So now that we've discussed the very touching tribute that WWE put on for Bray, we wanted to talk about the match in which Bray Wyatt won his first singles title.
It was
which brings
2017.
2017, the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view main event. I will say, before winning the title at this event, Bray Wyatt had only held one title in WWE before this. He held the SmackDown Tag Team titles with Randy Orton for 23 days, and that was his only title reign until this moment.
Wow. Makes it all the more impressive what's about to happen.
Right. I'm going to bring back, we're going to hop in our time machine, our royalty-free DeLorean, and we're going to travel back to Elimination Chamber 2017 in Phoenix, Arizona at the Talking Stick Resort Arena. Looking back at this Wikipedia page for this event, for all the matches we're going to talk about tonight, I looked at the Wikipedia page. It shows the full card for like the event. This is a trip down memory lane for sure.
Yeah, like some of the names and like, I mean, it's only what, like 6 or 7 years old at this point, but it's just crazy to see how far we've come.
Right. So the main event of Elimination Chamber that year was an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So an Elimination Chamber usually consists of 6 wrestlers in a match. And what it is, the regular 4x4 wrestling ring is in the middle, and then this big pod gets lowered over it. And it's like a steel cage, and a Hell in a Cell had a baby, and then the baby had another baby with a War Games cage, and that's what an Elimination Chamber is.
That's a good description.
Thank you. I just improvised that.
Yeah.
So
and then during it, every couple of minutes or so, on each of the corners, minute and a half, on each of the corners are kind of plexiglass tubes, and a wrestler will be inside of this plexiglass tube. And every minute and a half, like an alarm will ring, and one of the 4 corners will randomly light up. Whichever wrestler is in that corner, they come out and then they join the ongoing fight.
Right. So you see all the entrances happen. Usually the chamber itself gets its own entrance. Like the spotlights in the audience start going off, and it's like, and then it lowers. Cool. Oh, it's such a cool visual. They do it for all the cages. Each cage has its own song.
Oh, we love that.
So they lower the chamber around the ring. The 4 pods line up with the 4 corner turnbuckles of the ring. The first 4 wrestlers who enter the match almost always are the people who are in the pods. So if you want to know who enters at 1 and 2 in a chamber, it's usually who enters 5th and 6th in the lineup.
Little pro
those
tip
2 guys start the match, and other wrestlers enter as timed, like Tim said. And the only way to eliminate someone is pinfall or submission. Eliminations don't have to wait to occur until all 6 men are in the match. So they can happen at any time. Last person standing wins the Elimination Chamber. So this year, in 2017, it was an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. The match featured the defending champion, John Cena, which it's been a hot minute since John Cena has held a title. So reading this article, I was like, I remember watching this. I was in college. I watched it with my roommate Emilio and my roommate Kelsey. So it featured WWE Champion John Cena, AJ Styles, The Miz, Dean Ambrose, who's now known as Jon Moxley in AEW, Baron Corbin, and Bray Wyatt. Now, this was cult leader Wyatt family, Bray Wyatt. This is almost 2.5 years before he debuted the Firefly Funhouse. So,
at the start of the match, I believe it was just John Cena and AJ Styles starting out in the ring, and then
yes,
Miz, Ambrose,
Cena and Styles were 1 and 2.
Yep, Miz, Ambrose, Corbin, and Wyatt were all in the chambers. And I think the order was Dean Ambrose was released first, and then Baron Corbin, I think.
So
then after that, Bray and Miz.
Cena first, Styles second, Ambrose third, Wyatt fourth, Baron Corbin fifth, and The Miz sixth.
Yep, that's right. The Miz was the last one released.
So the first elimination did not occur until Baron Corbin entered. He was the first person eliminated.
Right.
So, there's a legendary wrestler in the WWE, Ric Flair. Ric Flair was oh God, if I get this number wrong, people are going to be so mad at me. Ric Flair was a 16-time world champion. In this match, thank you. In this match, John Cena was currently in his 15th title reign. John Cena lost the title this night, technically to Bray Wyatt, because that's who won the chamber. This was, like we said, Bray's first run with the WWE title. I remember my roommates getting so mad at me that I was excited that Bray Wyatt won. Not because they didn't like the outcome. John Cena lost the title, so if he won it later down the road, he would have tied Ric Flair's record. And they were so annoyed that Cena could potentially tie the record for most world title reigns. And these were guys kind of like you. They didn't watch wrestling, but when I was watching it in the dorm, I started out just watching it in my room by myself. Like, I'll use the language of, I don't want to push my beliefs on anyone, but if someone happens to become interested, I will share it with them. I don't try to force it on people. If you want to watch with me, you want to watch with me. If you get into it, you get into it. If you don't, you don't. I'm not going to be upset about it. It's not for you. Very respectful. Okay?
Very kind.
Hey, I don't push my beliefs on anybody. They don't push it on me. It works out. All I remember, Cena got eliminated, and I believe, so Cena got eliminated fourth, which left AJ Styles and Bray Wyatt in the ring. Either one of these men winning the WWE title in this elimination chamber, I would have been A-okay with.
Right.
Contrary to popular belief, I am not a John Cena fan. Never liked him. I didn't, like, he was a cool personality, but I never thought he was a good wrestler. Recently, he has added a few more moves for his, like, one-off appearances he does, but he was never, like, exciting to me in the ring. Bray Wyatt I liked a lot because I thought his moves were unique. I thought his style, the way he walked around the ring, his persona, everything, total package was exciting, it was cool, and it was fun. Bray Wyatt pinned AJ Styles after a Sister Abigail, which was his finisher, to win the WWE title, his first title reign in the chamber. It was such a cool moment as a Bray Wyatt fan to just be like, my guy finally won the big one.
Right.
You know?
And especially like you were saying, his only previous title win was a tag team title that he held for like a month.
Yes.
So to go from that to the WWE Championship, like, that's like awesome that he was able to kind of be given this opportunity and go with it.
I'm pretty sure it was a short reign because if I remember correctly, that year he dropped the title to Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Storyline at this time, the Wyatt family consisted of Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Randy Orton. Randy Orton was who Bray held the tag team titles with for this title run. And basically you find out Randy Orton infiltrated the family just to get to Bray to win the title. So, like, allegedly Randy knew Bray was going to win the Chamber, and he, like, dismantled the Wyatt family from the inside and was like, I'm gonna fight you at WrestleMania. I want this title match. So, I will say, this was one of the first, I remember this part. This was like a WrestleMania where WrestleMania has like the big grand stages, like design-wise, but literally they refer to the show as the grandest stage of them all.
Right.
And this year, it felt like it was 3 miles long. It was an entrance ramp that was LED screens, so they were putting graphics on the like path the wrestlers were walking down, like they were walking on the image.
Mm-hmm.
So, Randy Orton, his nickname is the Viper, like a snake.
Yeah.
They put a snake on the ramp that was like following him. It looked like a fucking sperm cell. It looked like Randy was being followed to the ring.
Oh man.
Oh my god. There was some kind of weird gimmick with that WrestleMania match too, between him and Bray, because randomly it would just cut to like a GoPro or a camera. Because like if you're ever watching WrestleMania, this is the view you're seeing on your TV. There's the ring, and then past the turnbuckles, the four corners, are these big lighting trusses, and they lead to like this big ornate like roof ceiling thing.
So, yeah, like directly above the.
Yeah, and it's got like the logo, and it's usually got like some fun shape. Like the year it was in New York, it looked like the Statue of Liberty's crown.
Ooh, very cool.
That kind of thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, this might have been in New York. I'm not sure, but it would like randomly switch up to some POV, like you were in that like crown ceiling thing we just described, looking down at the ring, and it like the mat would light up, and they would project like a bunch of mealworms and cockroaches and stuff onto the ring, and it's like, what is this? And then the announcer would be like, oh my god, the mind games are setting in. Everybody knows snakes hate bugs. Do they? Does everyone know that?
I think we need a nature scientist out here.
I'm not a snake doctor, but I think that's wrong. I'm not
also
a
not
man.
a human doctor.
I'm not a snake doctor, a man doctor, a lady doctor, or a child doctor. I'm just a dude.
I'm just a human.
But Bray winning this title in the Elimination Chamber was definitely one of the gold star moments in his career and for us, the fan base, because it was like, oh yeah, it's cool to see John Cena hold the title that many times, but it's always more exciting when a new guy wins it for the first time or the underdog wins it, you know?
Right, definitely.
Because like Bray Wyatt arguably was one of the underdogs in this match, because Dean Ambrose, The Miz, John Cena, and Styles were already WWE champions. I think all four of them already had held the title at that point. The only two in the match who hadn't were Baron Corbin and Bray Wyatt. Baron Corbin hasn't held it yet, but Bray, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think this was his only reign as WWE
I think you're right. I'm skimming through.
Yes, this was the only time he held the WWE Championship.
Right.
Just a quick run through his title reigns. He was a WWE Champion one time. He won it in this match. He was a 2-time Universal Champion. In a match we're going to discuss, I believe next, he won the Universal title. And I'll bring up who he lost it to in the discussion of that match. But he won it a second time, and as we said, he was the person that Roman defeated to start his now record-setting Universal title run. He was a one-time Raw Tag Team Champion with Matt Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was a one-time SmackDown Tag Team Champion. But if a faction wins the tag titles, there's a rule called the Freebird Rule, and it was established by a tag team called the Fabulous Freebirds, where they had, like, I don't know how many members there actually were in the Freebirds, but say you, me, your dad, and my dad were a group. we won the tag team titles. The belts could then be defended by any combination of the 4 members of the group.
Okay.
The Freebirds use this rule a lot. That's why it's now referred to as the Freebird rule. So Bray Wyatt's SmackDown Tag Team Championship reign was also shared with Luke Harper and Randy Orton. Also, under his title reigns, it says he won a Tag Team Eliminator in 2018 alongside Matt Hardy, and he won a WWE Year-End Award for Male Wrestler of the Year in 2019.
Good for him. He deserved it.
Oh, he also won an award for Worst Match of the Year and in 2020. It was Braun Strowman at the horror show at Extreme Rules.
Oh, man.
Extreme Rules is one of my favorite shows they do every year, and it's called Extreme Rules because every match, quote unquote, has extreme rules. What that means is none of the matches contested at this pay-per-view should be a standard one-on-one wrestling match. It could be a one-on-one wrestling match, but it could be a no DQ match, so you could use weapons. It could be a false count anywhere match. All I remember from
something with a fun rule.
Right, it's got a little pizzazz. The horror show at Extreme Rules, all I remember from it was they had Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio in an eye for an eye match. And
I remember that.
Yeah, the winner, like to win, you had to remove. I'm using air quotes, but this is audio only. Remove the other guy's eye, which led to Rey Mysterio wearing an eye patch on air for a couple months. If I remember correctly, the Bray Wyatt Braun Strowman thing was just like Bray showed up as the cult leader and then was like, come back to the family. And he was like trying to convince Braun Strowman to rejoin him and then just hit him with a Sister Abigail and pinned him. It was very quick, and it was mostly Bray just in the ring talking. But that did set up a Wyatt family swamp fight. Or maybe that was after that. But they definitely had a swamp fight at one point. I thought that was the coolest friggin' thing.
Yeah.
And like the Wyatt family swamp fight, another match we'll be discussing today is very similar. So, with that being said about the Elimination Chamber, where he won his first WWE title, we are now going to hop in our royalty-free DeLorean and go back to the future. I don't think I can say that more than once or they'll charge us.
Yeah, we better be careful.
We're hopping into our DeLorean with an A instead of a D, and we are now traveling to the kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the year 2019. And this match is Seth Rollins defending his WWE Universal title against the Fiend Bray Wyatt.
And this is the main event at Crown Jewel.
Crown Jewel. As I was saying to Tim before we started recording, I was looking for something to put on in the background with no sound, so as to not taint the audio. I'm watching Crown Jewel 2019 right now. I didn't skip ahead to this match. I just started it from the beginning. So a tag team turmoil match is currently happening, and it's the Revival versus the New Day. This is like looking at this card again. It's like a lot of these guys no longer work here.
Yeah.
Wow. Because like the Revival, they're currently the AEW Tag Team Champions. They're FTR right now. But yeah, this is another like weird trip down memory lane. I remember this pay-per-view happened on October 31st, 2019. Halloween. Now, if you're watching a pay-per-view, so we'll use the United States because that's where we live. If it's ever you're watching a pay-per-view, they go on at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. your time. If you're watching one that takes place in a foreign country or a different time zone, well, not different time zone, if it's a different country, it goes live at 7 or 8 p.m. their time. So for us in the United States, the Saudi Arabia shows go live at 8 p.m. Saudi Arabia time, which is like noon
Yeah, it's like 11 in the morning, noon, which is
So
a wild time of the day to just sit down and watch like a 3 or 4 hour long wrestling show.
I remember the first Saudi Arabia show they ever did, not to get too far off track, was called The Greatest Royal Rumble. A Royal Rumble has 30 people in it. Winner gets a title match against the champion of their choice at that year's WrestleMania. It's like the All-Star game, but it has a prize. The Greatest Royal Rumble from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had 50 people in it.
It was a lot of people.
It started at 11:30 in the morning on a Thursday. Remember this because my professor canceled class and I got to stay home and watch it because it was my only class that day.
Hell yeah.
I lived off campus and my roommate had come home from work and he was like, "Oh, wrestling's on? It's 11:30 in the morning." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's from Saudi Arabia, blah blah blah." He sat down and watched about an hour of it with me. He leaves to go to class, comes back from class, I'm still watching it. And he goes, "Dude, it's 3:00." I was like, "The main event just started." It started at 11 and it felt like it went to 6:00 our time.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God."
That's something.
But it had 50 people and the winner got a trophy. I think Braun Strowman ended up winning it.
I think
But
you're right.
now Braun Strowman, former Wyatt family member, here we are, back on topic.
Boom.
Boom. That's how it's done, baby.
You can't say we didn't get derailed because we are back on track.
We're back on the Wyatt train. Yowie, wowie.
Yeah, so a
That's
little
his pictures.
background. Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
A little background for this match is it was Bray Wyatt against Seth freaking Rollins, and their previous match had been a Hell in a Cell match against
At Hell in a Cell.
At Hell in a Cell. And Rollins is the defending, is it Universal Champion? Is that right?
Yep.
For these matches, right? So the Hell in a Cell match ended. You were telling me this before the match, so I take before the recording, so I take no credit for any knowledge or anything.
Hey, no worries.
But it ended by referee intervening because Seth Rollins had just stacked a bunch of chairs and tables and just a ton of crap on top of Bray Wyatt, kind of just rendering him immobile. And then the referee was like, "Hey, we're calling the match there." But you were saying isn't really how Hell in a Cell matches work normally. It has to be a pinfall or submission.
So the whole thing with a Hell in a Cell, it's a steel cage match basically, but it's not tight to the ring. There's space to walk around it inside the cell. It's a steel cage with weapons. Right. The only difference is you can win a steel cage match by escaping the cage. Hell in a Cell, you have to get a pinfall or a submission unless they put some kind of stipulation into the match. But normally, since it is a crazy concept match, there's no disqualifications, there's no countouts, that kind of thing. The standard things that would cause you to lose a regular wrestling match because it's quote unquote, well, it's not quote unquote, it's cheating. So Seth Rollins was being tormented by the Fiend, the dark alternate persona of Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt. Seth kind of realized there was nothing he could do to defeat the Fiend. He hit him with Seth Rollins' finisher at this point in his career was the curb stomp. So guy would be on all fours in the ring, and Seth would run up, do a little jump, and then bring his foot down on the back of their head, like slamming their face to the mat. Right. And that was the curb stomp. He hit the Fiend with, I want to say, like 7 curb stomps. And the Fiend kept kicking out.
Yeah.
So eventually he's like, there's got to be something I can do to stop this guy. Fiend is laying prone in the ring. Steel chairs, the steel steps, ladders, toolbox, contents of the toolbox. Anything he can think of. And then to top it off, he swings a sledgehammer down onto the part of the pile that conceivably should be the Fiend's face. It was absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they did it during the Hell in a Cell match, but during a lot of the Fiend's matches, it would be bathed in this cool red lighting. Mm-hmm. You watched the Hell in a Cell right before this, right?
I watched the Crown Jewel match right before this.
Oh, okay.
And that one was
Right.
it was all red lighting.
Yeah, that was
really
one
cool.
of the coolest effects.
Yeah.
So since the Hell in a Cell went to referee stoppage, they were billing this match at Crown Jewel. There's no stopping it. They weren't going to let it go to referee stoppage. There had to be a clear and definitive winner.
Right. And the title was on the line as well, which kind of necessitated that stipulation,
Right.
I guess you could say. Yeah. So yeah,
Also,
it was oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say this match was contested under Falls Count Anywhere rules.
Mm-hmm. Right, so they were. I'm guessing that also means no disqualifications. So they were able to
usually
go anywhere, sort of a deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember this match. It took place at Crown Jewel, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I had just started working for an evil corporation. Starts with an A. And
it's with Zahn.
Yes. And there's a Ma in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I had just started working there, and I absolutely was not feeling it. Even though I was in my mid-20s, I faked sick and didn't go to work because I wanted to watch this match live.
Hey man, mental health is important, and if that's what
it
it
wasn't
takes,
even mental health, Tim. It was wrestling fandom. I was like, I'm sure
watching it brought your morale up in a way.
It did. It was my first day out of training, and I was like, I'm sick. I can't go to work. I guarantee if my parents listen to this, they will bring it up and be like, you did what, young man? It's almost 4 years ago, but whatever. I'm just kidding. I love you, Mom and Dad. But this match was so cool. It had that cool red lighting. It had... They toss around the term, this has a big fight feel around a lot, arguably more than they should. I feel comfortable saying this match had big fight feel.
Yeah.
It was start to finish fun. This is going to sound so stupid. You pay for your full seat, but you're only going to use the edge of it.
You sound like an announcer.
I'm trying. Hire me.
No, that was good. Yeah, there were some really good spots in it too that I liked. I'm a big fan of any time when there are not only one table set up, but two tables set up stacked on top of each other. And this match featured that exact thing happening.
That's why you like the exploding lucha so much.
Exactly.
Table stack.
Yeah, Seth set up two tables right on top of each other outside the ring. It looked like he was just trying to do anything to get the Fiend down. And the Fiend was outside the ring, kind of stumbling around. Seth climbed up to the top of the turnbuckle, looking like he was going to try to dive off, do some sort of aerial. And the Fiend just climbed up and punched him off, and Seth fell backwards, falling through both of the tables. It was a really cool visual to see. And all of this in the glorious red light.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing with the Fiend character, since he's quote-unquote, like, I, as an adult, understand that pro wrestling is fake. You can say that all you want. I don't care. It's just something fun to watch. It's a good time. It gets you out of whatever negative things could be going on in your life, and it gives you some entertainment for a little bit. But one of the things with the Fiend being this demonic, supernatural character, he was like, people would be beating on this dude, and he'd just brush it off.
Right. Like, I feel like it's so difficult to, like, convincingly pull off, like, any sort of, like, supernatural kind of character. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, like, magic is, you know, it's you can kind of tell. It's like, all right, we're just having fun here.
Any magicians in the audience?
No offense.
Fuck you. Oh.
But, like, you know, there's just something about it where it suspended your disbelief because it was so entertaining, and his Fiend, you know, persona was just so intimidating to watch. It was scary. You're like, oh my gosh, like, this guy looks frightening. Like, he is not reacting to anything.
I understand it's a human man in a mask,
but
Just
it doesn't. It seems way more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a point when The Fiend was feuding with Randy Orton and he burned him alive.
I was reading about
Like,
that. I'll have to watch that.
Randy set The Fiend on fire. It was a dummy, like a prop, The Fiend they used. But then that year at WrestleMania, The Fiend showed up and he was like charred. It was so cool. Like, The Fiend wore a mask. It was white. It had like red lips, these fangs, and it was like open at the top. So Bray's dreadlocks came out the top of it, and his beard stayed inside. Well, he was pretty much clean shaven. Well, not like clean shaven, but his beard was closer to the skin when he was the Fiend. When he was like the burned version, he like spiked his dreads like upwards at an angle, and the mask was like melted and crispy looking.
It reminded me of something from the Twisted Metal video game, like that clown guy.
Oh, Sweet Tooth?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that a little.
Yeah, a little bit. The Fiend had such a cool visual with his ring gear. He had the mask we just described. He had like a black singlet top, and then he had like, they kind of looked like ringmaster pants. They were like black and red striped.
Yeah, like vertical pinstripes almost.
Yeah. He had these little like fingerless gloves he would wear, and they said hurt and heal on them. And then black wrestling boots, and he wore like a black trench coat out to the ring. You know how I said I was going to bring up his lantern again?
Yes.
That's right now. Have you seen the Fiend's lantern?
I believe I have.
So, Bray Wyatt's lantern, when he's Bray Wyatt, is like this old, like oil lantern, like LL Bean trading catalog camping drawings lantern. Okay?
Correct.
The Fiend's lantern, it's Bray Wyatt's decapitated head.
Right, with like stitches
His
over his
dreads.
eyes. His dreads.
Eyes are stitched shut. His mouth is stretched open, and the body of the lantern is in the open mouth. Yeah,
very eerie.
The Fiend, I think what did The Fiend for a lot of people was he was like a spot-on, perfect blending of horror cinema and professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the lantern was giving Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes.
Mm-hmm. And he like leaned heavy into the horror like aspects.
Oh, 100%. When Bray Wyatt was himself, his finisher was the Sister Abigail. He'd have the guy like wrapped under his arm, and he'd kind of like, I don't know how to describe it visually without you seeing it, but he'd like flip him and slam him into the ground kind of thing.
It's like a face plant sort of a thing, I believe.
For guys who aren't like actual wrestlers, we're not the best at describing moves. Like a super kick, super easy. It's a kick, but it's super.
Right.
So when he was the Fiend, he would still employ the Sister Abigail, but his other finisher was the Mandible Claw. It was a move that was made famous by Mankind, one of the faces of Mick Foley. What the Mandible Claw is, the guy's mouth is open, and the Mick Foley would reach down or Mankind would reach down into his pants and pull out a sock. Use your imagination where that sock's been. The sock had a face drawn on it. It was Mr. Socko. It had a mouth, a little goatee, eyes, eyebrows. Put it on his hand, and then he'd stick it in the guy's mouth and clamp down on his mandible. What that meant was he would like, I'm alone in the room I'm recording in, and I just like tried to do it to myself to get how to describe it. And I was like, if I did that on the podcast and then talked, it'd be like, meh, 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 meh. So he takes his hand. I'm still, God damn it. So I'm going to sit on him. So he takes his hand, and it's the middle finger and the finger right to the right of it. So the pointer, the thumb, and the pinky are on the side of the guy's mouth, and the middle two fingers are in the guy's mouth under the tongue, pulling down.
Right.
it's a submission move. Mick Foley would do it with the sock, so the gross-ass sock was an aspect of it. The Fiend just used his gloved hand. And normally he'd, like, Mick Foley would do it to the guy standing and, like, kind of bring him to the ground. The Fiend would clench it in and, like, slam the dude. So it kind of looked like a choke slam, sort of.
Yeah.
And then he'd just lean real hard into the submission aspect of it when they were on the ground. And it was always this cool visual. The Fiend would be on his knees, and the dude would be, like, prone on his back. And the Fiend had his hand around the wrist and was just, like, it looked like he was smothering him with a pillow or something.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I think it's arguably one of the most vicious submission moves you could lock a guy in.
Because like you can even try it on yourself. Like it hurts. Like putting any amount of pressure like down. Like
I just tried to do it live on the show.
Yeah, it's.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, this match, cool table spots, weapons abound. Do you want to tell the people
cool too?
How this ended?
Yeah. Tell them about the ending. Yeah. So they were both kind of fighting their way up the entrance ramp. To like that main stage where you have the big screen and all the wrestlers come out from, and Seth was just hitting curb stomp after curb stomp on the Fiend, like kind of right near the edge of like this big entrance area, and then eventually Seth hit him with a few super kicks, and the last super kick that he hit, the Fiend fell off the stage into a big kind of. There's just a bunch of like mechanical stuff stacked up on top.
There's like wires, plugs
like
for all the
electric
like
boxes.
lights and stuff, and
Right, just like a bunch of electric stuff. So Seth Rollins super kicked the Fiend into this pile of electric stuff, and the Fiend fell into it, and then like flames shot out and sparks came out. There's just like a very big spectacle of very hurtful looking stuff happening. Where he fell. So then medical people came out, and there were some fire extinguishers. And Seth came down. He's kind of digging like through the boxes to try to see what happened to the Fiend. While he's doing that, another big flash of electricity sparks and kind of blinds Seth because it was right in his face. So
like
Seth,
a flashbang.
Exactly, yeah. So Seth is kind of trying to get his bearings, and then from kind of the ashes of all this electric stuff, the Fiend rises up. And hits Seth with his Sister Abigail move, and pins him to win the Universal Championship title. It was very cool.
If I remember correctly, he hit it up on the stage, right?
Yeah, it was outside of the ring area.
The lights go out, and then the Fiend appears when they come back on in the ring with the title belt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's another thing a lot of supernatural characters do. Like the Undertaker does it. Like, the lights go out, they come back on, and the person is there. Usually, like, they'll do it during a promo. So, like, Seth Rollins would have been like, I'm going to beat the Fiend's ass, blah, blah, blah. And the lights go out, they come back on, and the Fiend is, like, right there behind him. Hits him with the Abigail or something.
Stuff like that.
Oh, spooky ooky.
Very spooky. Very cool, though. We're always fans of that.
The Fiend, this is where he wins the Universal title. Pretty much up to this point, they're billing the Fiend as something that is unstoppable. Seth Rollins had to almost murder him to end the Hell in a Cell match. He hit how many curb stomps in both these matches we just mentioned combined to try and put down the Fiend, and he still couldn't do it.
Right.
I don't remember what show it's at. Honestly, it might be another Saudi Arabia show from the same year, but the Fiend loses his title to Goldberg, and they're building the Fiend as this unstoppable, demonic, supernatural force. And for those of you who don't know, Goldberg wrestled in WCW. It was this other company that was like the big competitor to WWE. Goldberg had this legendary, like, I gotta look it up. It's this insane undefeated streak.
Yeah, like it went on for a while.
So, it was 173 matches undefeated was Goldberg's undefeated streak. So Goldberg was the one who took the title off of The Fiend, and they're building The Fiend as this undefeatable, unkillable force. Goldberg hits a couple jackhammers and then spears him. Things over in like under 5 minutes. I remember being absolutely livid that Goldberg was the person to beat The Fiend.
Right.
It's like the top guys of your company could not beat this man. And the person who could was Goldberg.
Right.
Like 10 years past his prime,
Right.
knows literally 3 moves. Goldberg.
And in like a quick like squash match almost, right?
Yeah, and it was one of the main events for whatever show this was. If it wasn't Crown Jewel, it was probably Super Showdown. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, that's
I'm pretty sure
that's just
it
like
was Super
disrespectful
Showdown.
almost.
WWE Super Showdown 2020. Goldberg hit 4 spears on The Fiend. Yeah, it was not a good show. The full match is 4 minutes and 20 seconds long.
Oof.
It was not a good time. Like Goldberg is an attraction talent. A lot of the times with these Saudi Arabia shows, they want an attraction talent. Like I said that I'm watching the 2019 Crown Jewel as we're recording this. The opening match of this show is Brock Lesnar versus Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez is an MMA fighter from the UFC. A lot of the times, the people of Saudi Arabia want just big names to come and perform at this show. So 9 times out of 10, they get Ric Flair, they get Hulk Hogan, they get legends, they get a celebrity match, because this same show features Braun Strowman versus oh god, what the hell is his name? Tyson Fury, the boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's cool and all, but don't make that the whole thing. Don't make the attraction show your whole marketing. Like, cool, it's cool to have an attraction match. That's how you sell tickets. That's how you get people interested. But bill your actual performers, your guys who have been there since day one,
Right, like give them some respect too.
Right, over these dudes who just show up for a paycheck.
Right.
Maybe don't have The Fiend, arguably one of your hottest characters in the past 10 years, drop the title to one of these guys.
Yeah,
or people are going to talk about it on a podcast 4 years later.
Right.
Oh my god.
I feel called out by that.
I'm not bitter. I have every available The Fiend action figure. That's a fun fact.
Impressive.
I collect wrestling action figures. My pride and joy in my figure collection. Masters of the Universe, the He-Man show. Mm-hmm. WWE. Who puts out? It's either Hasbro or it's Mattel. Mattel puts out He-Man action figures. Mm-hmm. WWE had a partnership with Mattel, and they referred to the fan base as the WWE Universe. They made a line of action figures called Masters of the WWE Universe, and it was wrestlers as He-Man characters, not literally like John Cena is He-Man. It was wrestlers in the style of the He-Man figures, so they're really short and they're really wide, and they come with interchangeable hands that like turn to weapons, and they have accessories. The original Masters of the Universe action figures, in the back of the bubble, like the plastic bubble you rip off to get the figure out, was a little comic book, and it gave you the backstory of the character, and it like
that's so fun.
Showed them like if it was He-Man who was fighting Skeletor, if it was one of Skeletor's henchmen, it'd be like how they met Skeletor or how they came to be in his service or something. Like the Masters of the WWE Universe figures had those little books in the back of them. They released them in waves. Every wave had 4 figures in it. Arguably, my 2 favorite figures from the entire set are from the same wave. One of them is WWE Hall of Famer Mr. T. Like from the A-Team. He's in the celebrity branch of the Hall of Fame. And the other one is a Fiend Bray Wyatt figure. And it's like the little comic shows like there's like this friendly traveling magician, and it's Firefly Funhouse Bray. And he's like, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Sometimes when I'm not feeling so fun, my dark side comes out. And he turns into the Fiend in front of the people he's performing for and attacks them.
Ooh.
The Fiend figure had the Hurt and Heal gloves, but you could pop them out, and one was like a Morning Star, and the other was a battle axe. So you could do like a hand and a battle axe. Frigate, mine's got both weapons, just weapons. This man can't hold a cup of coffee, just weapon
That's
hands.
all he needs.
He can't pick up an object. He's got weapon hands. I think that covers our crown jewel match, which brings us to the final thing we wanted to talk about.
The main event of the podcast, you could say.
The main event of the podcast and the main event of night one of WrestleMania that year.
That's right.
Do you want to let the people know what we're talking about, buddy?
Sure. So this is, we mentioned them before, but this is a Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania 36 Night 1, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, this was on night one. So, or honestly, now that we've said it out loud, it might have been night 2, but that's not important. It was at WrestleMania that year. So, for those of you who might not have been watching wrestling at the time, it was during the COVID-19 pandemic. So there were no crowds at the shows.
Right.
Late pandemic, WWE did this thing called the Thunderdome, where there were these video panels, and you could sign up to be in the virtual audience. You would get a link, and it was basically to like an empty Zoom call. So you would be in a Zoom call with one of these video screens, and your face would pop up in the virtual crowd. I was actually in the virtual crowd for Hell in a Cell that year. And you like just entered your email and you got the link, like if you were picked to be in it. So this WrestleMania was before they started doing the virtual audience. So these guys were just wrestling to an empty arena. The only people in the room were the people in the match, the ring announcer, and then the commentators, and everything was socially distant. Now, another thing they were doing at this time during the pandemic was something called a cinematic match. And what this
really
was...
like these.
Oh, so did I. I think we're in the minority of people who actually enjoyed the cinematic matches. So they only really happened during 2020, the pandemic, and they were pre-taped, usually like insane gimmick things. They did one about every pay-per-view, really. Ooh, excuse me.
All good. So, like, for example, this Firefly Funhouse match.
I mainly made Tim say it because he got through it before I did.
This is one of them. I think they might have even had another one at this WrestleMania. It was like it was a boneyard match between
Undertaker and AJ
Styles. Yep. So, it just gives them a chance to just go all out creativity wise, because you can kind of do anything, and like anything that you can think of really, and film it exactly how you want, have as many takes as you want, just really, use this new medium.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, to have fun and just tell the story exactly how you want to, which is really cool.
So this match was contested between Bray Wyatt / the Fiend Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
And
your favorite
John Cena.
You love him. Don't deny it.
The Chain Gang Soldier. So this is, at least in my mind, I didn't really know how to take notes on this because it's not the traditional product. It's not something we were used to. And this was really, I could be wrong, one of the first, if not the first, cinematic matches they presented, because as we said a few seconds ago, we couldn't remember if this was night 1 or night 2. Whatever night this didn't happen on was the Boneyard match with The Undertaker, so that one would have been the first. So like if this was WrestleMania Saturday, Firefly Funhouse was the first, but if it was WrestleMania Sunday, the Boneyard match was the first. It's like, we can discuss it and we can say what we liked and didn't like about it, but it was something new and something we didn't know what it was going to be when it got announced that this was a cinematic thing.
Right.
Like, a lot of the big hits for me in this match, they brought in, like, references to not only the past of Bray Wyatt and John Cena, like, as rivals, but as individuals. Like, they brought in, like John Cena wrestled a portion.
Like his John Cena's very first match, I think.
When he was the prototype.
Right.
And he wore trunks. Like, he didn't wrestle in the jean shorts. He wore, like, spandex singlet trunks and knee pads. And then they brought in, like, Bray Wyatt, the cult leader. They brought in his character when he was in the Nexus, which was Husky Harris. It was just like a generic-looking plus-size wrestler who could kind of move. And then they eventually repackaged him into Bray Wyatt. Which is, there are, like, the little puppet characters on the Firefly Funhouse. Huskus the Pig Boy was supposed to be Husky Harris, Bray Wyatt's original WWE character. So, like, Huskus the Pig Boy was a pig wearing workout gear and, like, sweatbands, but he would be lifting weights, but the weights were really, like, chocolate donuts, and he'd be eating them. And Bray Wyatt would pop up on the screen in a workout tank and sweatpants, and he'd be like, "Come on, everybody, let's do the Muscle Man dance." And he'd do this dance. I think he did the dance with John Cena in this match.
I think so. I think that's right.
Because, like, I watched it, and it was great. But to me, like, I like the cinematic stuff, but they were like a once in a moment thing. Like, they don't have very much rewatchability, I feel.
Yeah. Because you kind of watch it and it pays homage to, like, a lot of stuff, and it's like this one in specific. Like, it paid homage to just a ton of stuff. There were references. They made like in their moves and what they were wearing and the characters that they portrayed. But it's so different from watching just, like, a regular, like, wrestling match where you're like, oh, like this spot was really cool. I really liked how this finisher happened. Like, I loved watching, like, it play out this way. You don't really get that with the cinematic match. It's kind of a different product in a way, but it's still extremely entertaining for sure.
It's fun. It's entertaining, but it feels more TV show than the wrestling TV show normally does.
Right.
Another moment I really liked in this match was John Cena. I think they showed him in an NWO t-shirt. And it was like WWE.com posts this article every once in a while that's like, what would a legendary faction like the New World Order look like with today's wrestlers? And they always post that they think the leader of a current New World Order would be John Cena. Because what the New World Order was Hulk Hogan was in the WWF, and he wore the red and the yellow trunks, and he was like the all-American American.
Yeah,
that's Jack Swagger. He was like all-American, like bread and butter. Say your prayers, take your vitamins, drink your milk. WCW, the company we mentioned earlier, where Goldberg did a lot of his career-defining moments, they have this event called Bash at the Beach, and there was one show where they were teasing this group forming, and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, both of them also unfortunately have passed away. Rest in peace. Oh no, Kevin Nash is alive. I'm so sorry. They were already gone from the WWE and had joined WCW. They were a group called the Outsiders because that's what they were. They weren't WCW guys. The guys who left WWE and came over to this company. And they were talking about how they had a leader coming, and it was going to shake up the pro wrestling world. The leader of the NWO is Hulk Hogan. It's a bad guy. Yeah, it's a bad guy. Hollywood Hulk Hogan. He wears black and white, the colors of the NWO, and he's a heel. NWO was like this super group of wrestlers. It has way too many members to count. And yeah, it was like, oh, John Cena would be a current leader of the NWO because I think he's the wrestler currently, even though he's like a by appearance guy now, who most closely, like, you could say is like the modern Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, like you could kind of track or follow the trajectory of his career and the trajectory of Hulk Hogan's, and they would kind of have similar overlaps in a way in terms of like how they've been built up.
Yeah, seeing John Cena in an NWO shirt in black and white doing the Hollywood Hulk Hogan air guitar was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know my dad is an occasional wrestling fan. He watches more of it now than he did a while ago, but he didn't like this match. He didn't know what it was. It wasn't something he enjoyed. But there's a moment from it he still quotes to this day. When I told him we were going to do this episode last week, he's been saying it to me every time I see him in passing. One of the puppets Bray Wyatt used on the Firefly Funhouse was Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE, as a devil. And the devil, Mr. McMahon, was doing commentary for this match.
Oh.
There was like a little puppet guy doing commentary, and he just kept going, ruthless aggression. Ruthless aggression.
Ruthless aggression.
Because that was like, there's like eras of WWE. There's like the Attitude Era, and John Cena, I believe, was the person who coined the term ruthless aggression to set in the ruthless aggression era, which was like early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
This is before my time. Like I know the Attitude Era because it's so famously spoke of. Yeah, we were little babbies.
Little boys.
Small. So yeah, it was a Easter egg and a play on John Cena saying ruthless aggression in a promo when he first debuted. I think the Vince McMahon puppet was like, "This is such good shit," or something, and they were like, "Whoa, they just cussed at WrestleMania."
Dun dun dun.
I remember really, like, in the moment enjoying this match, and like I think of all the cinematic matches, this is one I could rewatch.
Yeah.
One, because I want to celebrate Bray Wyatt, and two, it was like unpredictable. You didn't know what was going to happen because it was the first of its kind. All the ones that happened after this, you kind of got a feeling, even though each one had like individuality because each one was so unique, it was still like, I kind of know what I'm getting into with the title of this match. Like another example of the cinematic matches, there's the Wyatt family swamp fight. I know exactly what I'm getting in that. It is the Wyatt family. They are fighting in a swamp. What the hell is a Firefly Funhouse match? You know?
No one knows. Yeah.
But then there was like the Money in the Bank that year was like Money in the Bank climbed the corporate ladder. And it was Money in the Bank traditionally, you suspend a briefcase above the ring, wrestlers set up ladders, climb the ladder, take down the briefcase, you win Money in the Bank. There's a men's match and a women's match. What the COVID-19 protocol Money in the Bank was climb the corporate ladder. Titan Tower, which is WWE headquarters, it's in Stamford, Connecticut. Beautiful Stamford, Connecticut. It started in the lobby of the headquarters, and the women's and the men's matches were happening simultaneously. The women started fighting in the lobby right outside the elevators. I think the men's match started in the gym or something. And you had to fight your way to the roof of the building, and then on top of the building was a wrestling ring, and the two briefcases were suspended above the ring. Climb the ladder, take it down, you win. Even that, I kind of knew what I was getting into. It was like climb the corporate ladder, and it takes place in the building, and it's like they're gonna fight to the roof.
Yeah,
they're going to the roof.
Definitely
Firefly
unique.
Funhouse. Yeah, they were unique matches, but Firefly Funhouse, I think, takes the award for best cinematic match in terms of like the WWE ones.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the first, if not the first. We are still undetermined on that, but
Right. The
I think
jury's
it set
still
a
out.
bar. I think a lot of people were worried wrestling during the pandemic wasn't going to be good because you couldn't have a crowd, nothing fun was going to happen. What could you do?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the circumstances that the entire world was in at that time, WWE and the other companies were able to still put out product to the fan base they knew would still be watching because they're loyal to the product, or they're just loyal to the sport itself. And I think a lot of people ended up enjoying it, even though they were confused or bad mouthing it. It wasn't great wrestling. It wasn't great shows during the pandemic, but they were still putting on something for the fans. So that it wasn't all you have to be scared, you have to be worried, you have to be on edge because there's a global pandemic happening and no one knows what to do. They were providing a light, they were providing like something safe, something that's the usual, something that's the norm, something
Something to get
you
your
knew
mind
you were
off.
guaranteed. Yeah, you could get your mind off of the horror that was happening all around you in the world, and it was a guarantee because nothing during COVID was guaranteed. But you knew Monday night you'd get Monday Night Raw, Tuesday night you get NXT, Wednesday night there's no wrestling on Wednesdays, Thursday you'd get something, Friday you would get SmackDown. All Elite Wrestling launches, you got wrestling on Wednesdays. They opened their doors and started doing their shows literally like a month before COVID ravaged the world. Even then, they still put on shows weekly. It was the comfort of knowing that your thing was still there. You had some consistency. You had something that was known during a time that was nothing but unknowns.
And what more could you ask for?
Right. It feels weird to talk about wrestling that way, but that's really what it was. It was consistency in a time where everything was inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I think that brings a wrap to our Bray Wyatt special.
I agree. Yeah. No, we definitely talked about a lot of highlights. I loved hearing your personal connection with how he kind of got you back into wrestling with his character. So that was really cool to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you. First off, he was something special. Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, Husky Harris, The Fiend, whatever you knew him as, he was something special to you, an audience member, to you, a fan of wrestling. Maybe as a parent who saw it and was interested, and you could watch it with your kid, a significant other, whatever. He was something special. He was unique. He was creative. He was one of the greatest individuals in the world of professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
It really is a big loss to the community. And like I said earlier, this is an episode I never thought I would make. I never thought I'd be making episodes, but I'm blessed that I'm able to put this show out with you and people listen to it. And it's just, I'm just in all, like, I'm upset that we did this. Not like I'm not mad we made the episode. I'm just upset this was something that occurred and we had to talk about. We wanted to celebrate this, just like you said, once in a lifetime talent. I don't think there's any other better way to say it. My wishes and my hopes are with his wife, his children, his whole family, really. And even though he never, he wrestled under the name Bray Wyatt, he was a third generation wrestling talent. His grandfather was a wrestler and his father was a wrestler. He was someone that was known in the world to those in professional wrestling. They, legends, knew who his dad was. Legends, the people who were legends to the legends, knew who his grandpa was. his grandfather was one half of the Blackjacks tag team. His grandfather was Blackjack Wyndham. That's who he's named after. And then his father was IRS, Erwin R. Shyster, famous tag team partner of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He was something known in the world of professional wrestling to those inside the community, and he became something known to fans and audiences. Even if you're not a WWE person, if you're into AEW, if you're into Impact, Ring of Honor, anything, you knew who Bray Wyatt was. Because even if you didn't like his style, you didn't like his character, he was making headlines. He was someone that brought attention to the sport and brought a lot of new eyes to it. And wrestling is better off because of Bray Wyatt.
Definitely.
And yeah, with that, thank you for listening, everybody. And just hug your loved ones. Let someone know you love them. Call up somebody. Say hello. Tell them you miss them.
And
ask them, talk to them.
Never take each day for granted, for sure.
You never know if you're going to have another. Thank you for listening. It means a lot to us. And
we appreciate it.
Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Yep. We'll see you all real soon.